Hi, everyone. This is Raphael, and welcome back to Relationships Done Different. Tonight, we are doing episode number 7, How to Access Your Own Google Search Engine. Now, that may sound a little strange, but if you think about it, our minds are exactly like Google, although I must say they're much, much more powerful. Think about it. You put in a search term into Google, press send, and almost instantaneously an answer comes back. Well, our minds work pretty much the same way. We ask a question, the energy of that question goes out, finds the answer, and comes back. The answer may come in the form of a knowing, an inspiration, a vision, and may not come back right away. It may take a while, or it could be instantaneously. The thing that's important to understand is that our mind is so powerful that it will pull in exactly what it is that we need to hear and to understand at exactly the right time. So tonight, Isatis is speaking at a local meetup that we do twice a month in Vancouver, Washington. And she will be speaking about how the rhetorical questions that we give you at the end of each session initiates the Google search engine of your mind and the very, very powerful effects it has to help you understand exactly what it is you need to know. So now, here's Isatis.
Tonight we're going to talk about questions and how to send your mind as a Google search engine out into the world to be working for you instead of letting it recycle the things that it has on an old program or the RAM. For those of you who know anything about computers, it brings up programs and it keeps it very close up, so when you ask for it, it comes very quickly. A lot of times we don't know we're asking for it. So when you are bumping up against and you find yourself disoriented or frightened or resistive, just start with asking yourselves questions. Instead of saying, no, I can't do that, you can say, well, what if I was open to that? What if I was willing to look at this from a different perspective? What would I do if I wasn't afraid right now? And what happens is in the mind, what we do is we literally have a Google search engine. And when we are thinking about the stuff that we've always thought about, we're just playing back the recycled ignorance, the programs that we've run, that we learned from childhood, from brothers, sisters, what we might have brought in our DNA, depending upon your belief systems, and all of that stuff. So our job is to recognize that and then send your mind in a different direction than what it's used to. In other words, pop open the doorways and make the windows go up for something new to occur, because that's how you're going to make the most profound changes in your life. And it's also how you're going to get yourself out of the dungeon or the trenches or the heavy-duty depression or the confusion or the victimization or the poor me, or how come my life is always like this, or how am I going to get out of this mess, or how am I going to pay my bills, or how am I going to do this. The moment you go there with those kinds of questions, your mind is now cycling down. It's going down and the frequency gets lower and lower, and from there you will manifest. And what you're going to manifest is less fun, a crummier perception. You'll start pulling to yourself less money, less of what it is that you're asking for. Your health might be worse, your job might turn into something really yucky. Whatever it is going to come because of what you're putting your energy on and thinking about. And your programming is there because it doesn't look at it as good, bad, right, or wrong. Universe does not care. It's just obedient. So whatever we just are going to put out there is what we're going to get back. But the difficulty is that most people are unconscious about what they're thinking. Don't know what you don't know. So awareness is always the number one thing. You've got to be aware of what you're thinking and start observing those processes that you have going on in your head, not with any judgment, because we need to be compassionate with ourselves. We need to be loving and kind to ourselves, because if we are not, then we're going to see it and then we're going to beat ourselves up, which is going to lower the frequency, and downward we go again, which is going to get more self-denigration and more, self-defeat and poor self-esteem and low empowerment and everything that goes along that frequency. There is an analogy that I've used in the past that I think is a really good one, and that is that I don't use it so often anymore because we don't really use radios hardly ever anymore, especially the kind of, you had at home and you sat on your desk or whatever. But what you could consider the radio if you're not using satellite, but if you just had a regular radio that had like AM and FM, and you tune to K Joy, you're going to hear a certain kind of songs. It might be soft rock or something, and then you may go to K Country, and now you're going to hear country songs, and then you can go to the classics. So every one of those stations has a specific genre, and each one of those genres has a certain frequency to their music. And then there's a frequency that comes with country music. It's usually sad stories. You've been cheating on me, mama, and whose boots are under my bed now, and all of those kinds of things. So they have a certain frequency to them. And for people that have listened to oldies, things that happened in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, depends on how old you are. Everything could be old. Or for some of us, it could be different. And so when you look at those, what happens is those songs also have a frequency, and they tap into a frequency inside of you which will be activated by the memories that you have in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. And so it becomes really interesting. So when we're on the radio station, we realize that each one has a frequency. Well, that is true of everything that we think. So when you are thinking from what I call recycled ignorance, when you're thinking from something that you're on a subconscious level, what your mom told you when you were 3, like you're always going to have trouble, or nobody's going to like you, or you're going to have to struggle all your life, or the things that people say that they don't know what they're saying, but we don't forget anything. Every single matter, every single speck of data is imprinted on the walls of the frequencies of the universe. So it's like a spiral. So it would be like, you could imagine that all of these, it might be like a mathematician or somebody who does that stuff, and you've seen on the walls that, like an Einstein kind of thing, and there's all these formulas and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what happens in our universe. Everything that we think has a certain frequency and has a certain data point to it, and it gets smacked on the universe's wall, and it has a resonance value or a frequency that's very specific to you. But it doesn't mean that other people can't read it, feel it, and experience it. But it's kind of like your thing. And you might have made it your thing based on somebody else's thing. So it creates actually a web or a blueprint or a matrix, if you will. And that's how we all get so very connected. So when we talk about the RAM in the mind, and we talk about the Google program in the mind, what we're really saying is that it has an unlimited capability to go out and find anything anywhere in the universe, known or unknown, from all the writings on the wall. And in doing so, it will bring back to you based on the frequency that goes with the question. And the frequency will come up and attach, if you will, to something that's like it and bring it back to you. So if you're saying, why is my life so hard? Why has everything been so difficult? How come I can't find a partner? How come I'm struggling with money so much? Whatever it is that we think, that has, first of all, a fear-based, bottom line. The base of it is fear. When you are going to put out fear, that is going to run out and find anything that's on the walls anywhere in the universe that will bring you back something that matches the frequency. So if you're putting out fear, it doesn't think about the words as much as it thinks of, it doesn't think, but as it does, it attracts what it's like. So it is so critical. It is so important to be a mind manager. You must manage your thoughts. You must manage your thought processes. You have to manage and be aware of where you are, what you're thinking at all times. So in the Google of your mind, when you come up against something that's difficult, instead of recycling, you can say, what's great about this that I haven't seen yet? Or you could say something like, this is going to be the most awesome day, or this is the most awesome day of my life that I've ever had so far. This morning, when I woke up, and before I left the bedroom, I went over and I kissed Raphael, and I said, this is going to be the most awesome day of my life so far. And I had a great call with somebody who's very interested in doing something that we're creating, an online school kind of thing. And he's a medical doctor, and it was just like, oh my gosh, In fact, before he hung up, he said, I've been waiting all my life for this call.
Oh, wow.
And it was pretty exciting. So it made it, I told him that. I said, this has made my day incredibly awesome.
And P.S., that's what she said to me the first day that I met her.
I love it. That's cute.
I did. When he came in, I said, I've been waiting all my life for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because there was just that knowing. So when we are conscious, when we're aware and we're conscious and we stay present, we have to be present and grounded to what it is that's happening, which means that we stay in our body as much as we can, except when we're going through some, when the puzzle pieces are shifting position, it's okay to be spacey, don't beat yourself up. Just stay safe. Maybe not a good day to drive too many places or whatever, or do things that are grounding, like walk in the grass in the freezing cold and the pouring down rain, because that'll ground you real fast into your body, or something like that. The other thing is that when you are coming up against things, when you don't even have to come up against things, you can demand, kind of maybe not the perfect word, but you can tell the universe what your day is going to be like when you wake up. If you wake up in the morning and you say, I love my life, and then you go on to say, what is the most magnificent thing that can happen for me today? What is the most incredible thing that can happen for my body, my partner, my money, my children, my whatever it is you want? When you start asking the question, what's the most powerful thing, or what's the most magnificent, or what's the most joyful, then you are immediately setting your day into a frequency modality. You are telling the universe, this is what my day's about. Oh my gosh, I better get out there and find out what the most awesome thing is. Or I better figure out how I can make the body feel better than it's ever felt before. Or how can I bring to this person something that is going to raise their good humor and elevate their frequency. And when you are seeing things from a different frequency, that means that you are no longer in the fear frequency of, how come my life isn't working? Oh my God, we need to do something. And then we start getting grumpy about it because we're in so much fear. Well, that's when we have to stay awake and shift to questions that will support things being the way we would like them to be. And the key is These are rhetorical questions. They are not questions that you, with your precious little recycling programming, is going to come up with. So you always want to leave them open-ended. You always want to put them in a way that is beyond what it is that your mind knows, because if your mind knows it, it's already recycled. And it's already most likely coming from the fear frequency, because most of the programs that we remember, not all of them, but a good many of them come from the traumas we've had in our life. What do we remember most about an event? 99% of the people will tell you what was the most horrible thing or the most whatever thing that happened in their life. And I'll say, what are 3 things that happened in your life? And the majority of people will say, when this happened to me, when my sister fell from the trapeze at 30 feet, or whatever it will be. But when on one of the questionnaires that I do when I coach people is I say, what was the most awesome thing, or what are the most miraculous things that's ever happened in your life? So you start thinking about, gosh, what's great about this? What's great about my life that I forgot? And I do exercises that help people look at who they are, because we're untrained. We do not train ourselves how to see our own magnificence. We are not trained to see things from the glass half full. We are not trained to reiterate over and over again the great things that we've done, that we've said, the people that we've helped, the incredible things that we have overcome and that we have accomplished. How much of your day is spent that way? Probably not a whole lot. If you do a gratitude journal, then you're getting closer to something that is supportive. And it's not just enough to think the gratitude, that's a good first step, but if you really want to put depth to it and energy to it, then write it down. Write down every night or every morning or both. One thing, 3 things. If you try to write a page every night, pretty soon there's going to be a part of you that is going to get bored with that and say, I'm too tired to write a page. But if you only have to, or if you only decide to write 1 or 2 or 3 things, then it's not a big deal. You can spend 30 seconds writing 1 sentence, and that will shift your entire frequency before you go to sleep at night. Another thing that is very powerful, and some of you have heard me say this before, is at night before you sleep, you say, take me beyond where my mind knows to go. Take me beyond where my mind knows to go. Because your mind is recycling everything that happened in the day, all the things you didn't get done. Oh my gosh, I've got to remember to write that down. I can't even tell you how many nights, probably 5 out of 7, I turn off my phone, I'm getting ready to go to bed, I go to sleep, and I'll say, Raphael, would you please send me a text to do something that I didn't remember to do that day or whatever. And after he sends me a text, and which I don't hear because I turn my phone off at night, then I lay down and I go, take me beyond where it is that my mind knows to go. And I call in my team, which is, another whole subject that we could talk about. And some of you have heard me talk about the genius team, and then there's the 0.0 team, and then there's the medical team, and I have a lot of teams. And then there's all of those that work with you that may be guides or gurus or saints or whatever it is that your belief systems work with. And so after I name, 30 of them, and then I say, and for all of those that I've forgotten to mention, and all of those seen and unseen, because there's so much happening to support you in having an amazing life. But we forget that.
Yeah,
And we run wild with the recycled programming that we've got going, and that becomes our law, it becomes our habit, it becomes our belief system, it becomes our entire self. That is the facade that we carry around us, and it's based on everything that is primarily, everything that is not the way you would really like your life to be. So this is where when you wake up, you start to take charge of your life. And it is, for some people, the majority of people, not the easiest thing you've ever done. Because those old trenches are pretty darn deep. And that's why you want to have as many things in your day to support you in keeping yourself in focus. So you have programs that you listen to. We have like 40 hours of different programs that you could be listening to that would be raising your frequency by a gazillion. There's a lot of different places you can go on YouTube or go wherever it is that you can go that will support you in listening to that kind of stuff instead of the latest murder mystery or the politics or, the news bulletins. Those things are not going to really make you feel terrific, because even though you think you are not paying attention, what happens is subconsciously, remember, we take it all in because everything's a frequency. So we take it in, and when we take it in, it imprints on us on a subconscious level, and then we wonder why we have this undiagnosed fear. I'm just afraid, and I don't even know why. Sometimes it's because you're picking up the energy of the planet, which is basically in terror, especially right now, and all of the things that aren't, happening with the government shutdown, and people aren't being paid, and are we getting our food checked, or whatever, all the things that are going on, I don't even know. That's creating a lot of fear for a lot of people. And sometimes it's because you are so sensitive to the fear because you've got this subconscious fear going on from all of the other things that you listen to that are now attracting more of what's going on with that part of the universe, instead of the part of the universe that's saying, oh my gosh, this is the best year of my life so far. It's the best day of my life. This moment, what would it take for this moment to be the most incredible present moment that I've ever experienced? Keep asking yourself things like, and the ones that I use a lot is, what would it take? Another one is, if I find myself thinking something that isn't like what I'd really like to be thinking, I go, what's the value of me being critical? And then I go on to another whole piece, which comes from access consciousness. So I might say, what's the value of me being critical right now? Will you please delete, destroy, and uncreate that all times a godzillion? Right, wrong, good, bad, pock, pot, all nine shorts, boys, beyonds. And what that means is, I know.
Could you repeat that?
Basically what that means is, would you take it from the point of creation to the point of destruction and eliminate it off the wall and
That's like altogether gone.
clear me,
Annihilated. Yeah.
clear me out, and then I will frequently say, wipe
love
me
it.
clean.
Love it.
Wipe me clean.
Love it.
Because I am in charge of my life. And life is going to happen. But you get to be in charge of how you be with how you deal with what happens. As a general rule, we as precious little beings, we didn't get the instruction manual for life. And therefore, we don't know what we don't know. And what we think we know is that we are all little tiny worms of the dust. The majority of people do not know that they are worthy, that they're loved, that they're lovable, that they have so much that they can give, and whom it is that they can be in the world can make a difference in a way that they have no clue. No clue. And I noticed that the work that I do, the biggest thing is helping people know who they are. And when you can help people become more empowered and recognize their own capabilities, their world changes, and so does the rest of the world. And that's the piece that we also don't usually. So it is important that we recognize that there's more than you know. No matter how much you know, no matter how awake you are, no matter how advanced you think you are, you don't even have a clue about anything. Because as awake as we become, it's just a signal that we are not awake or aware or in the purest depth of all knowing. Because we do live in a very sequestered, organized and constructed, engineered space. And that's another thing at another whole time, but the bottom line is that in this engineered space where we live, we don't know what we don't know, and it is specifically set up so we don't know what we don't know, because the game of life is called, how do I figure out what I don't know? How cool is that going to be? And if you didn't look at it like it was some big punishment or some big deal, and you looked at it more like it was something, an adventure, like you've heard me say, like being in an escape room, for those of you that know what that is, you can just like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And how you figure it out isn't using your left brain so much, it's about directing your brain to go beyond where it is that your mind knows, because your mind only knows what it learns, what it sees, and what it feels. But the part of you that knows so much more on the unseen level, that's the piece you want to keep putting out that energy to access. And if you think that that's weird, no problem. You never have to believe anything I say. I mean, trust me, I don't have any energy on it. I know it works for me. I know it's worked for a lot of people I've worked with. And if you want to get some validity to all this stuff, you can look at Napoleon Hill, who had his whole thing come from the inside. Hilton made all of his hotels from his inside guidance system. There's a whole bunch of very, very famous people that don't tell the world, usually until they're dead, or their family tells them after they're gone, about the stuff that they really, how they got where it is that they got. But they get it from what's going on beyond where it is that their mind knows to go. The truth is that there's a whole bunch of people that have had this that a lot of people really don't know of. So we get little bits and pieces every time we meet, unless we come to a retreat. Then we get 3 days.
Oh, and that's amazing.